Commander Vexthor slammed his chitinous fist onto the ship's briefing table, causing his assembled team of elite mercenaries to flinch. The most hardened killers in the Orion Arm stood before him, warriors whose very names struck terror into the hearts of their enemies. Yet here they were, refusing a contract worth more credits than most planetary economies. "Cowards," he spat, his mandibles clicking in agitation. "Since when do the Crimson Talons refuse good money?" Kurztok, the Mantillian assassin whose poison had ended the lives of 3 planetary presidents, stepped forward. Despite his fearsome reputation, his antennae were pressed flat against his head, in obvious distress. Since the target was human, he chittered softly. "I don't have a death wish, Commander." The other mercenaries, a collection of the galaxy's deadliest species, murmured in agreement. The massive Earthall brothers, whose exoskeletons could withstand direct plasma hits, actually took a step backward. Vexthor's compound eyes flickered in confusion. He was new to this sector of space, having spent most of his career in the Carina Sagittarius Arm. "They're just Deathworlders. We've dealt with those before." A bitter laugh came from the back of the room. Lara, the Void Witch of the Scorpius cluster, moved forward. Her ethereal form rippled with barely contained energy. "Just Deathworlders. Commander, do you know why humans are classified as threat level Omega?" Vexthor's mandibles twitched. He'd assumed the classification was bureaucratic overreach, as usual. "Enlighten me." Talara waved her tentacles, creating a holographic display of Earth. Their homeworld isn't just a death world, it's a crucible. They evolved on a planet that actively tried to kill them every day. Predators? They turned them into pets. Poisons? They consume them for pleasure. Temperature extremes? They go to both poles for fun. The Earthall brothers clicked their agreement. "We once saw a human child playing with a thoraxian spine beast," the Elder One rumbled. "Playing with a creature that can dissolve durasteel." The beast was wagging its poisonous tail appendage in apparent joy. Krust's antenna twitched. "That's nothing. During the Centaurian Wars, I saw a human continue fighting after losing 2 limbs. They just laughed and said, 'Tis but a scratch, some kind of ancient human battle cry, I believe." "But surely with our superior technology," Vexthor began. "Technology?" Talara interrupted. "Humans don't just adapt to technology, they weaponize everything they touch. Give them a mining tool, they'll turn it into a weapon. Show them a medical device, they'll figure out how to make it lethal. They created particle accelerators to study the universe's smallest components, then immediately wondered if they could use them as mass drivers." The commander's confidence was beginning to waver. "But there are only a few billion of them. A few billion of the most terrifying beings in the galaxy," the younger Earthall brother interjected. "Do you know what they did when they first achieved faster-than-light travel? Instead of running from the horrors of deep space, like any sane species, they made it their mission to explore every dark corner they could find. They call their Space Force Navy after ancient waterborne warriors who would sail into storms for the sheer thrill of it." Lara's form pulsed with remembered fear. "I once saw humans recreating historical battles for entertainment. They called it a reenactment. They deliberately relive their most violent moments. For fun. And don't get me started on their information networks," Krostek added. "They share videos of themselves performing incredibly dangerous stunts, which inspire others to attempt even more dangerous feats. They call it going viral. Yes, they named it after microscopic deathbringers they've fought since their inception." Vexthor sat heavily in his command chair, his exoskeleton creaking. "But the contract? The credits?" "Credits mean nothing if you're dead," Lara stated flatly. "The last mercenary group that took a contract against humans, they weren't just defeated, they were converted. Half of them ended up becoming human friends, a fate worse than death. The humans invited them to something called a barbecues, a ritual where they burn flesh over fire and consume it while sharing stories of battle. The commander looked around the room at his elite team, seeing the same fear in all their eyes. These hardened killers, who had faced the worst horrors the galaxy could offer, were unified in their refusal to face humans in combat. "What should I tell our client?" he asked finally. "Tell them to make peace with the humans," Futuristic suggested. "Better yet, become their allies. Because if you make an enemy of humanity, you don't just face their weapons, you face their endless ingenuity, their inexplicable joy in the face of danger, and their utterly baffling ability to turn mortal enemies into friends over shared meals and something they call coffee." As Vex Thor composed the message declining the contract, he couldn't help but shudder at the stories he'd heard. The galaxy was vast and filled with terrors, but only humanity seemed to look into that darkness and say, "Hold my beer," another phrase he didn't understand, but was too afraid to ask about. The mercenaries dispersed, each quietly grateful they wouldn't have to face humans in combat. Better to find contracts against simple planetary defense forces or space pirates. Anything was better than facing a species that had turned their own adrenaline response into a recreational activity. That night, as Vex Thor reviewed other potential contracts, he made a note in his personal log, "Note to self, add contracts against humans to the list of prohibited operations, right between Zeusicide missions and temporal paradox manipulation." At least the temporal paradoxes are predictable.